ReactJS has grown tremendously popular among developers. Even the most complicated apps are easy to manage and maintain because of its component-based approach. ReactJS is the finest way to build high-speed web apps since it dramatically boosts the performance. Hi everyone, this is Tejaswini from Edureka and I welcome you all to this session. Today's session we will be covering all about ReactJS tutorials. First, we will see the introduction, that is what is React and why we use React. Next, we will move on to the setup environment, where we will have an hands-on installation of important packages. Next, we will move on to the toolchain, where we will explore some of the popular React toolchains. Followed by, we will jump into our first React component, where we will be exploring all about the React components, starting from how to embed the expression, rendering elements, rendering lists, and conditional rendering, handling events, and finally we will look into binding event handlers in React component. Moving further, we will also compose all the components which we have created previously, and we will look into the props and states and their differences. At last, to maintain the hook, we will look into the lifecycle of the hooks, where we will have mounting phase, update phase, and unmounting phase. Now with that, I hope you all understood the agenda. But before we go ahead and start with this video, if you love watching videos like this, then please do not forget to subscribe to our Edureka YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated with all the latest Edureka videos. And also, if you are interested in ReactJS certification course, then do check out the link given in the description box. Now let us start with what is ReactJS. React is a declarative, efficient, and flexible JavaScript library for building user interfaces. And also, it lets you to compose complex UIs from small and isolated piece of code called components. Right, I'll make it more simpler and introduce React to you. React is just an open source JavaScript library that is used for building user interfaces. So it was developed and it is maintained by Facebook and it is widely used by many companies and organizations worldwide. ReactJS allows developers to build the reusable UI components that can be easily combined to create complex and dynamic user interfaces. So this makes it easier to manage the code and reduces the time and effort required to build and maintain the applications. So why it is so easy? Because React uses a virtual DOM, that is nothing but the document object model. So this DOM will be keep track of the changes to UI and update only the part of page that need to be updated. So which can be result in improved performances. This virtual DOM approach also makes the ReactJS high effective and fast. So even with the large and complex user interfaces. So finally, I will tell you that ReactJS is a powerful and flexible front-end library that enables the developers to build fast, efficient, and dynamic user interfaces. With that, we will see why it is so popular and the features of ReactJS. So I'll start with the main important feature, that is reusable components. So here in ReactJS, the one of the most important feature is considered as the reusable components. So in React, it is the ability to create the reusable UI components. So these components can be made easy by combining to build the complex UI interfaces, by reducing the amount of code that need to be written and making it easy to maintain and manage. So at the end, this kind of feature will lead you to faster development and reduce the time to market your projects. And the next feature is virtual DOM. Here, React uses the virtual DOM as I mentioned previously, so which acts as an intermediary between the applications and the actual DOM. So the virtual DOM keeps track of the changes to the UI and updates only the part of the page that need to be updated, rather than updating the entire page, right? So this can be greatly improve the performance of the applications and it ensures the fast and effective updates. So by using this virtual DOM, the next feature comes, that is the fast and efficient. By using the virtual DOM and other performances optimizations, React can be very fast and efficient, even with the large and complex UI interfaces, right? So this can lead to improve the user experiences and it reduce the load times. Nowadays, if you see, React is widely adopted. Why? Because it is easy to learn. React has a relatively small learning curve compared to other front-end frameworks and libraries. So this can make it accessible to the developers of all levels of experiences and can help to reduce the time and effort required to get started with building applications. And also you need to keep in mind that the React has large and growing community of developers and users, which means there is a wealth of resources, tutorials and support available to help the developers get started and overcome some of the challenges. So these kind of communities can also help drive innovative and development, making React a strong and evolving platform. The next benefit is popularity and adoption of React. Here, the React is widely used and popular with many major companies and organizations which are using for their web applications. So, this popularity and adoption can help ensure that the React will continue to be developed and supported by making it a reliable platform for building applications. So, I hope you all also will join the community. And the final one is improved user experiences. Right. Here, by allowing the developers to build dynamic, interactive, and some responsive user interfaces, React can greatly improve the overall user experiences of application. So this can lead to increase the engagement and satisfaction by making the application more successful and effective. So I hope you understood why it is so popular with these features, right? Now let us jump into the setup environment. So as you know, React is a JavaScript library for building the user interfaces and it requires few tools to get started, right? So the first one is Node.js. Here, React requires Node.js to install on your system. Like Node.js is a platform for running JavaScript code outside of the browser. So you can download this latest version of Node.js from the official website, that is nodejs.org. So I'll show you. Now go and type nodejs.org and you will get into this site and you can see here the latest version is 18.14.0, right? You need to click on that and you need to follow the installation instructions for your operating system. So I'm using Windows. So I already have Node.js. So we'll just verify. Go to command prompt and just type node. And you will get the version. So I had installed 18.12 version. So that's fine. You can install the new version if you don't have. Right. The next one is to install Visual Studio Code. So you know Visual Studio is a code editor. You can go to the visualstudio.com. So you will get into this site and you can install for Windows or any operating system that you are using for. So this is also simple installation. You can click on it and follow the installation instructions. Also, you can use Sublime Text and Atom also. So I would recommend you to install Visual Studio Code or any code editor that feels comfortable. So once you install both of the prerequisites, then we will move on and create a project directory. For that, go to terminal or command prompt. So I'm using command prompt. Now I will initialize the project by typing npx create react app. Then give space and mention the project directory. Here let me give my hello world, right? Hit enter. So as you can see, a new React app is created. Wait until the configuration is getting over. So as you can see, everything is installed successfully and you can see happy hacking over here, right? Now that we have a React project set up, you can start the development server in your terminal by navigating to your project directory. So I have navigated to the project directory and just type npm, that is node package manager, and start. So by doing this, you will start the development server. So this will start the development server and you will be able to view your React app in your web browser in localhost 3000. As you can see, our React app has been successfully shown here, right? So by following these steps, you should now have a fully functional environment for development React app. You are now ready to start building your own React app and explore all the features and benefits of this powerful library called React. Now that we just saw how to install the React and other prerequisites, now we will look into the tool chains. So I have some of the popular tool chain listed over here, and we will see here. The first one is create React app. So this is an officially supported command line tool for creating React projects. So it set up a basic React project with all the required dependencies and a development server. So it will allow you to start building your app right away. Now the next one we have next.js. So this is a popular framework for building the server-side rendered React application. So this includes the features like automatic code splitting, optimized performance, and easy integrations with other technologies like TypeScript and GraphQL, right? So the next one is Gatsby. So this is nothing but it is a static site generator that uses React to build fast and efficient website. And the final one we have is Redux. So it is a state management library for JavaScript applications that provides a centralized store. And it reduces to manage and update the application state in a predictable way. So this is a popular state management library. So that's often used with React. And also it provides a way to manage your application state in a single centralized store and making it easier to manage and debug your applications. So these are few just examples for popular toolchains with React. The exact tools that you choose will depend on your specific needs and requirements for your project. With this, I hope you all understood the toolchains. Next, we will move on to how to create a Hello World app. So you know that we have already created a development server over there. So we will start there itself. You can see this is a simple React syntax for Hello World. It's just have import React from import, and we have a React DOM, and we have just done one Hello World in a h1 tag. So now that we have a development environment set up, right? So let us write Hello World application now. So let us go to Visual Studio Code. So as you can see, I have opened Visual Studio Code and just go to the files here, open folder. Right, you can see my Hello World and select folder. So with that, you will get that folder inside your Visual Studio. Right. So you need to just go to index.js into the src file. So here I have just written the import React from React and import React DOM, and I have the element over here that is h1, and I have just rendered this in the root. So if I run this, I should get this Hello World in h1 tag. So this is how you write a simple Hello World program in React. Now we will jump into the core concept of React, that is component. So what are components? Components are independent and reusable bits of code. They serve the same purpose as JavaScript functions do. So it works in isolated and written HTML, right? So in other words, we can say that every application you will develop in React will be made up of the pieces of components. Yes, that's true. Right. So what are components in general? So they are building blocks of ReactJS applications, right? So they allow you to split your user interfaces into reusable independent pieces that can be composed to form the complex UIs. So there are two types of components in ReactJS. One is the functional components, the other one is class components. Here, functional components, so these are stateless components that only receive the props as an input and renders HTML. So they can be defined using the functions that returns JSX. That is nothing but the JavaScript with the HTML syntax, right? Now, if you look into the class components, so these are stateful components that can be managed their own interval state and have access to the lifecycle method. So they are defined using a class that extends the React.component class. So here components can receive the inputs in the form of props and can manage their own interval state. The state is an object that holds the data specific to a component, and it can be updated using the setState method. ReactJS components can also manage their own behavior, for example, by handling the user events and making the API calls. So when a component state or props changes, here the ReactJS will automatically re-render the component. Okay, and by allowing your application to stay up to date with the latest data. Here, the components in ReactJS are designed to be modular and reusable. So this will allow you to build the complex applications by composing the simple, independent components. For examples of the components, a button component that displays a text label and triggers a callback function when clicked, right? So a form component that renders input fields and handles the user submission. So that is upon the forms. And the next one will be cart component that displays an image, title and description, etc. Right. So these are the examples of the component. So at the end of this session, we will be looking into a project. It is of to-do list project. So I will be explaining all of these components and buttons, how they work, everything. So stay tuned. So this is all about the theory in the components. Now let us just move into JSX in React, right? JSX is an extension for JavaScript that allows the developers to embed the XML-like syntax within their code by making it easier to write the components and templates. So it is self-explanatory. Now let us directly jump into what is JSX. So as I said, JSX is a syntax extension for JavaScript that makes it easier to write the components. So it was developed by Facebook and it is used in many popular frameworks such as React. Okay, now with this JSX, you can write the components using the syntax that resembles the HTML, right? By making it easier to read and understand. And if you see, some of the benefits of using JSX is it improves the readability and maintainability of the code. And also it allows for reusable components. And it can simplify the complex UI logic. Okay. Now, if you see the JSX syntax, so it uses XML-like syntax, right? For example, the following code shows you like how to create a button using JSX. So this is a simple syntax for creating a button. And if you see the next one, embedded expressions. So here JSX also can also be used to embed the expression within the components. So by using the curly braces, here you can see we have used the curly braces, right? So these are, if you want to embed some of the expression inside syntax, then you can use curly braces for this. And JSX is most commonly used in React, where it is used to define the components. To use JSX in your React projects, you will need to install a transpiler such as Babel, so which will convert your JSX code into regular JavaScript that can run in your browser. So if I want to conclude what is JSX, it is nothing but a powerful syntax extension for JavaScript that can make it easier to write the components in the React. So with its improved readability, reusable components, and ease of use, so it is a great tool for building complex user interfaces. So I hope you understood JSX. We will move on to embedding expressions. Okay, what is embedding expression? Like, how do you embed expressions inside the React? So embedding expressions in React, it refers to the incorporating the dynamic values such as data from state or props. So if you can see here in the below example, as you can see, we have the constant name as Edureka and the element is welcome to. So here we have embedded the name over here. So here I will be getting the output as welcome to, the name as Edureka. So here this value will be embedded inside this name, inside this curly braces. Okay, that is what this embedding expressions means. So this will allow you to create a dynamic and interactive user interfaces. Okay, for example, the values might be changing in some of the applications, right? So that will be added here in the curly braces. So that is the simple logic behind that. So here I will give you another example here. So I have a piece of code. So this example here, as I mentioned you in the earlier example, I had Edureka over there. Here I have John Doe. And this name will be embedded inside this hello John Doe. For example, you get any mail from any websites. For example, you get a mail from Edureka, right? So here they will be just sending you mail by telling hi and your name. For example, if I get hi Tejashwini, and there will be some messages, right? So that hi, that name is there, no? So that will be dynamically changed each time. So in case I get any mail, it comes in my name, and if you get any mail, that comes in your name. That the name will be changed dynamically according to the persons. And you can even embed any valid JavaScript expressions within the curly braces. Here, this includes the things like arithmetic operations, function calls, ternary operators, etc. So if I show you another example over here, so I have some constant number over here. For example, I have number 1 and number 2 and 10 and 20 respectively, right? So here the output shows the number of sum of number 1 is 10, right? So here the number 1 is 10 and the number 2 is 20, and it will give you the sum of both number 1 and number 2. And it is important to note that when embedding expressions in React, you should only use the expressions that are guaranteed to be side effect free, such as simple calculations, string concatenations, or array access. So here you should not use expressions that causes side effects. Say for example the function calls or set state within the curly braces. So as this can lead to unexpected behaviors. And additionally, it is a good practice to keep your expression simple and concise to improve the readability and maintainability of the code. So we have next topic, that is rendering elements. So in ReactJS, rendering elements refers to the process of displaying the UI components on the screen. So unlike browser DOM elements, the React elements are plain objects and are cheap to create. Here the DOM takes care of the updating the DOM to match the React elements. An element describes what you want to see on the screen, right? As I said previously. So here an element is a plain JavaScript object that represents a part of UI. So when the React updates the element, it updates the UI accordingly. So whatever it is being changed, it automatically change in the screen also, right? So here we call this root DOM node because everything inside it will be managed by a React DOM. So if you can remember that I have created Hello World program previously, right? So I have mentioned root over there. So whatever I change inside the element, so everything will be changed through this root. Okay. Now let us look into rendering list. Rendering list in ReactJS refers to the process of displaying a list of elements on the user interfaces using React component, right? So this can be achieved by mapping over an array of data and creating a React component from each item in the list. So if I make it more simple, for example, you will often want to display some of the multiple similar components from a collection of data, right? So you can use this JavaScript array method to manipulate any array of the data. So here I have shown the image over here, right? Here to-dos is an array of to-do items. See, to-dos is an array of to-dos items. The to-do list components map over this array and creates a list of items that is inside the li for each to-do items. And this key prop, here you can see the key, no? So this property is added to each list item to make sure that React can efficiently update the list if the data has been changed. This key property tells React which array item each component corresponds to, so that it can match them up later, right? So this becomes an important if your array items can move. Next we have conditional rendering. In React, you can create a distinct component that encapsulates behavior you need. Then you can render only some of them depending on the state of your application. Here, conditional rendering in React is a process of rendering components based on certain conditions or state. The state of component can change dynamically, and React allows you to conditionally render components based on the state of your application. Here, React uses JavaScript to control the rendering of the components. To perform conditional rendering, you can use the JavaScript control structures such as if-else statement, ternary operator, and switch statement. Conditional rendering in React works the same way that the condition works in JavaScript. Use this JavaScript operators like if or the other conditional operators to create the elements representing the current state and lets the React update the UI to match them. Next we have handling events. First, let us define what are events. Events are actions or occurrence that happens in the browser, such as a user clicking on a button, a page finishing loading, or an element being updated. React allows us to handle these events and respond to them with the specific actions. In React, we handle events using the event handlers. An event handler is a function that is executed when an event is triggered. As I said, if a user clicks on a button or etc. To create an event handler in React, we use the syntax on event name, which is equals to, in a flower bracket, we use the function name. Okay, where on event name is the event where we want to handle and the function name is the function that we will be executing the event in is triggered. As you can see here, we have the syntaxis difference between the HTML and the React code. Okay. So here, as you can see in HTML, we have the events that are named using the lower cases. But in case of React, we use only camel case, where that is the valid syntax in React. And in HTML, you can pass a function as a string. As you can see in the example, here we have a button where this is a event handler on click, Edureka, and the button name is Edureka. So when the person clicks on the button called Edureka, the function will be changed or updated automatically. So when it comes to React, it is done with the JSX. Then you can pass a function as the event handler. Here I have given the same example, but you can notice it is in the camel case on click, and we have embedded the expression in the name of Edureka, right? So let us take an example of a button component that increases a counter every time it's clicked. Here the component will have a state count that will store the value of a counter when the button is clicked. We will call the handle click function that will be increasing the value of the counter. Right? If you can see here is a function and I have two parameters, that is count and set count. I'm using the use state over here. So here this will act as an handle click function where it will be increased the value by 1 every time the handle click is called. Okay. So here as you can see I have mentioned a button over here. So let us take a look at the output. You can see click me button over here. So if any user clicks on it, the handle click function is triggered and you will get the output or the value to be increased by 1. So you can see here you have clicked 1 times. Okay, fine. Now I will click another time here and you can see the changes over here, right? So this is how we handle the event over here. Next we have binding event handlers. The first and foremost common way to bind the event handlers is by using the arrow function in the onClick property. Here, event binding tells the browser that this function should be called whenever this event is triggered. Or in other words, whenever the event is triggered, the function which is bind with the event should be called. Here, for example, let's say we have a button in our component and we want to handle the click event of the button. Let me take the same example over there. Okay. In this example, we are using the arrow function you can see here, right? So this arrow function is to bind the click event of the button. So whenever the button is clicked, it will log the message button clicked in the console. So this is one of the way. Now we will move on to composing components. In general, what is composing components? Okay, imagine that you are building a website and where your website will be containing some of the components such as navbar, search bar, some of the text, some buttons, etc. Right? So here those components are not built together. They were built separately and they were put into your website by composing all the components that you have already prepared, right? So that is the same logic applied over here. So components are the piece of isolated code, right? So those are composed into a website. So for example, we will look into the code. Here you can see we have import React. And you can see some of the to-do list components over here. And you can see the submit button and its function. And you can see the form over here where we will be having the inputs like text, submit buttons, everything, right? So here these are small components. So these are put in together and made it to be a website. So as you can see here, we have a text field to add your task, to-do list task. For example, learn React. So I will hit enter and I will just add task. So if completed task, it should go away. If not, it is always incompleted, right? So if incompleted task is clicked, you will get a motivation quit and you will have a delete task. So this is the project that we are going to work. So here, this text, this input field, these buttons are each component. So these are each components that I have put into and made a website. So this is called composing of components, right? So as you can see here, we have single components. For example, let's imagine this has a button, this has a text, this has an input field. Okay. So these are put it together and made the website. Here, from passing data from a parent to child component, we use props, right? So here, props data is sent by the parent component and cannot be changed by the child component as they are read only, right? Here we have the props and here we have state. So whatever components that is sent by props, that cannot be changed by the state over here, because it is props is a parent component and whereas state is a child component, where these child components are only to be read only. Next we will move on to props and state. We will explore what are props and states and their differences. In React, props in short for properties, and they are used to pass data between the React components. Here, React's data flow between the components is unidirectional. It is like from parents to child only, where props are the arguments passed into the React components. Here, the props are passed to the components via HTML attributes, where props are passed to components via HTML attributes. In simple, props allow you to pass data from one component to another component as an argument, where state holds information about the components. Here, let's imagine we have a parent that is props and a state that are children, right? Where here the props will assign some of the information to the state, or the props will pass data from one component to another component, where the state will be only containing the informations. Now finally we will move into lifecycle hooks. After that we will see on a small project. Here each component in React has a lifecycle which you can monitor and manipulate during its three main phases, that is mounting, update and unmounting phase. Now let us look into detail of each phases. Let's start with the mounting phase. Here mounting means putting elements into the DOM. React has 4 built-in methods that gets called in this order when mounting a component. The first one is constructor. The second one is get derived state from props. The third one is render. And the last final one is component did mount. Here the render method is required and always be called. And the others are optional and will be called if they are required. Then we have update phase. A component is updated whenever there is a change in the component state or props. Here, the React has 5 built-in methods that gets called in this order when the component is updated, right? So the first one is get derived state from props. The second one is should component update. The third one is render. The fourth one is get snapshot before update. And the final one is component did update. Here, as I mentioned before, render is a required method where others are optional. And the final phase is unmounting phase. So this unmounting phase in the life cycle is when a component is removed from the DOM, or unmounting as React like to call it. Okay. Now React has only one built-in method that gets called when the component is unmount, that is component will unmount. So here this method is called when the component is about to remove from the DOM. Now let us jump into the example. Now let us start creating a to-do list project where I will be showing you how to create a text field and a button to add task, complete task, incomplete task and delete task. So when the completed task is triggered, this button is clicked, the score here will be updated to 2 or updated to 1 plus, because it gives you some motivation that you have completed the task for today, right? So next button is incomplete task. Here you can see the incomplete task. So if you click on this incomplete task button, some of the motivation quotes will be displayed to you to give you some motivation to complete that task. Then finally, we have delete task. For example, if you add this task without knowing, or if you don't want to add this task in your list, then you can delete this task. So by deleting the task, you will not get any score or any motivation tips. Right? This is the project for today. Let us see how this is being created. So I'll go to the Visual Studio Code. So let us create a to-do list project. Now I will just import React from React. Okay. After that, I will be exporting it. Now let us initialize the constant over here. So for this, I am writing to-do list with an arrow function over here. So here I will be using the useState hook 4 times. So one is for to-dos and another one is for task, and the third one is for score, and the fourth one is for quits. So as I mentioned you in the output of the to-do list, we have a to-do and a task bar, and we have a score. If you complete the task, you will get 1 score, and if you click on the incomplete task, you will be displayed a motivational quote, right? For all those, I will be using 4 useState hooks. Okay. So here, as you can see, I have to-dos and I have set to-dos, and task, set task, score, set score, quits and set quits. Okay. For all those, I'm using the useState, and also I have mentioned some of the motivational quotes. It will be displayed randomly whenever you click on the incomplete task button, right? So here this block of code is a functional component in the React, which using the hooks API called the to-do list. Okay. Now first let me display some of the forms, that is the input text and the submit button. So for that I will just write. So as you can see here, I have a h1 tag which shows the to-do list over here. Okay. And I have h3 tag which shows the score here. And I have embedded the score over here inside the curly braces. Okay. And I have mentioned the on submit over here. So this is the event handler. So whenever the user submits or clicks on the submit button, so this handle submit will be triggered. And as you can see, I have the input where I have the text as an input type, and I have the value for task. So you can see I have embedded the task over here. So whenever the task is added over here, it goes to the use state over here for the task. So it will be automatically added in the task and it will be displayed in the browser. So this code is a React component that returns a JSX from a to-do list applications, right? So it defines a div with a background image and has a heading and score displayed. So as I mentioned, we have a heading and the score displayed, and we have a background image. And it also has a form for adding a task that includes an input field and a submit button. So you can see we have an input field and a submit button over here, right? The form submit event is handled by the handle submit function, as you can see here. A list of to-dos is displayed using a map function over here, and that loops over the to-do arrays. So each to-do is displayed as a list item with the text of the task and the 3 button for marking it as a complete, marking it as incomplete, and a delete button. Okay. So here handle complete, handle incomplete, and handle delete. So here handle complete, incomplete, and handle delete. These functions are triggered when the respective buttons are clicked, as I mentioned it earlier. So the complete button and the delete button modifies the state of the to-do arrays. So as you can see, the complete and the delete task, these buttons modify the state of the array list. For example, I'll just add another one, learn React Native. So as you can see here, the complete and the delete button will modify the state of the array list. Whereas this incomplete button will randomly display the motivational quote. For example, so here if you click on the incomplete task, here you will get an motivational quote. This will be random because here in the code we have mentioned 4 of it, 4 or 5 of the motivational quote. So if you click on the incomplete task, so it will display you the random quote. So here you can see this code defines two functions, that is handle submit and handle complete, right? So here which are used to manipulate the state of the to-do list component. Here in the handle submit, the function is called when the form is submitted. So it prevents the default from submission behavior using a prevent default function, right? And then updates the state of the to-do list component. So it does this by adding the current task to the to-do array using the set to-do list. And you can see here in the handle complete function, it is called when the to-do item is marked as completed. So it updates the state of the to-do list and component by removing the component's to-do item from the to-do array and updates the score by 1. See, you can see I have mentioned the score. If the complete task is clicked, then the score will be updated to +1. So if you look into incomplete task handle, so here I have mentioned the random index where it will see the quote's length and it will display in the alert box. So whenever this is clicked, the random quote will be displayed in the alert box. So we have come to the handle delete event. The handle delete is called when the user wants to delete a task, right? So here it takes an index of the task to be deleted as an argument. So it creates a new array like new to-dos, which is a copy of the current to-do array, and removes the task by calling the slice method on the new to-do array. So finally it updates the to-do state with the new to-do list. And with that, I have just added few of the CSS here. I have used inline CSS, and here I have used the internal CSS. Here for each button, I have displayed some of the colors and the sizes for it. And finally, if you look into the output here, we have the H1 tag, that is to-do list, and the H3 tag, that is the score. And if the completed task is clicked, the score will be updated to 1. And here if you add a new task over here, so if you click on incomplete task, so here you will have the motivational quote will be displayed and no score will be updated or decreased because it is nothing to do with the score button. And if you delete this task, and that also nothing to do with the score button too. So this is the simple to-do list application. So with that, we have come to an end of today's session. And that is it for this video on ReactJS tutorial for beginners. And if you have any doubts about this topic, then quickly head over to the comment section and post your questions over there, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. We also have lot more videos coming up on this topic, so you make sure you subscribe to our Edureka's YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated with all the latest Edureka videos. And also, if you are interested in our React certification training, then please click on the link given in the description box. Let's see you in the next video. Until then, happy learning.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!